Football season is finally here. Have you checked out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on FanDuel Sportsbook? Do you think the Bills are headed to the Super Bowl? Good luck. You can lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials. Download now. FanDuel Sportsbook, where winners play. Did you guys watch AEW last night?
I did not.
How about you, Konnan?
I did because that's my job.
That's your job?
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to edit.
That is my job, isn't it?
I had to
To
edit and
review
release.
shows?
Yes.
I had to do the show. I had to release the main show. That's my job.
Okay, well, you can watch a 10-minute version and,
I have an
abreast.
idea. I have an idea.
All right, let me talk about it. There's not much to talk about in the show because we're in between the WWE with the last time is now tournament, and now they're starting the Continental Classic on AEW. It's tournament time. Well, bro, like as I said, like when it's tournaments, these reviews go very quickly, and this one's going to go pretty quickly because like not a lot happened in the show besides the tournaments matches. Because the first one it's kind of weird. I don't know, Okada versus Fletcher is the first match, and they showed some tension between them after Fletcher lost his match at the pay-per-view to what's his name? Mark Briscoe. And so they're showing tension in the Don Callis family between Okada and Takeshita, and then, Kyle Fletcher's mad that they didn't help him and he lost. And now they're in a match, and like Don Callis at ringside has to tell him, well everybody still gets along, and he's at commentary. This basically 16 minutes and 44 seconds, and they were both trying to cheat each other because they're heels, which made sense, I guess. But at the end, Okada gouged the eyes of Fletcher, went for the Rainmaker, but Fletcher just rolled through and got the win clean, and then beat him clean on a roll-up after 16 minutes and 44 seconds. They offered a handshake, and then they accepted. The Callis had held both man's hands up. And this is the heels. This is how the show started. And like you people know what I like, and I can imagine what you think I thought of like this first segment of the show. Konnan, what did you think of this?
Well, obviously, Fletcher's a star of the future, and he's going to be doing stuff with Will Ospreay when he comes back as a rival, and probably they'll tag him up in the future together. Last year, Fletcher beat him. I was reading this today. Beat him in the Continental Classic, right? And Okada still won the tournament. I don't know if they're going to do that this year too. I like at the beginning where they both kind of faked a handshake and they tried to cheap shot each other.
Right? Yeah.
Right, but then it started really slow. The match was really long. Right. It was a good win for Fletcher because he lost the TNT title to Mark Briscoe at a Full Gear. Callis was on commentary. He was good as usual, but this meant nothing to me. I wasn't really into it. I just watched it because I was, that's my job basically. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's two losses in a row for Okada at least, though. That just seems off to me.
That's my point. Like, wait, bro, these so the problem here for me, and this is not, I'll make a prediction, okay? Right. And actually, it's kind of an unfair prediction because we're in the holidays, so the ratings are going to be going down anyway for the next month or so.
Right.
But I'm sorry, you are not going to interest like for their audience, this is fine. They love this. But you are not going to take the Japanese tournament format and present because you think the matches are so good and everything, and present that to fans, and they're going to get about this for this next month.
Here's the thing, Disco.
I can honestly say I will.
Tell me if you're with me on this. Tell me if you're with me on this. Here's the thing, bro. Mm-hmm. He's got his base super happy, the sickos, right?
Right.
But you've got to, if you want to grow, just like Post Malone, right?
Right.
You got to get out of that bubble. Now, this isn't something like, for example, and I'll give you an example. I remember when NWA first came out, right? The rap group, right?
Right.
And they were like, oh, they were criticizing them because of their language and the misogyny and all that, right? And they said, you should have cleaner records and respect women more. And they said, we're not going to cross over to you. You have to cross over to us, right? Mm-hmm. But there was something special where they didn't have to change their stilo or their blueprint to grow. But that's an anomaly. AEW's been around, what, 6 years now? 5 years?
Right.
And they're not growing, bro.
Right. Okay, so that one, perfect segue. Because we're going to go to sidebar here, okay? Because, people bringing up, why is AEW underperforming? Okay, this is verifiable facts, year-over-year data. AEW's decreased their attendance and live attendance and viewership.
Right.
Okay, and it's funny because the AEW fans like Dave,
and even bigger than that, nobody mainstream ever announces them or talks about them.
Right. Okay, that's right. Correct. But I want to bring this up. Okay, so they're bringing up. So now AEW's been around for 6 years. Okay, and year over year for the past 4 years, they've lost attendance and viewership. Right. So some guy tweets, I'm okay. So let me go this whole tweet storm here. Right. So a guy tweets.
Who is this guy?
I think Cornette would be one of those.
Okay, but who's the guy that tweeted this?
I don't know. It's just some guys. Okay, well, I don't know. That's one of the tweets is deleted, so I got to call it. I thought this. So this guy Michael Proteus Chemo tweets, "I'm glad that you are beginning to directly address the quote grifters' bad faith unquote people. AEW is literally the second most successful U.S. wrestling promotion in history. However, impressive, since the number one had a slight 40-year head start and had a 10-year monopoly on the national market." Okay, so these guys are bringing this up. Just talk about the grifters, and I guess he's pointing to stuff people like us. He's talking about Cornette and everything that are talking about. I guess this is a grift. We're discussing the year-over-year decrease in ratings and attendance. That you're somehow deflecting against it, like trying to tell us that there's an excuse for it. So Dave tweets the 66 or 67-year head start. Yeah, it's hilarious watching those guys with their narratives about money losses, not realizing they became outdated and out of touch well over a year ago and are playing to an audience of rubes. So here we are actually literally talking about the AEW is decreasing their attendance, revenue, viewership over the course of time, and they're trying to tell us that we're outdated and out of touch because that narrative doesn't really jibe here because the other company had a 66 or 67-year head start. Okay, so and that to me is like, all right.
Okay, then can I say something?
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Then can explain to me why Sears was the number one department store for over 50 years and now they're going out of business. Number one.
Right.
Number two, explain to me why boxing's been around for 100 years and Jake Paul makes more money than any boxing promotion. Okay? Explain to me why UFC's only been around 20 years and they're bigger than AEW or box. If you're efficient and you're good, it doesn't matter how many years you've been at it. Okay? They do have a head start. Huh?
You're with me on this. Okay, right. So this is perfect because I'm going to bring up because then I tweeted. Okay, I quoted this tweet, all right? And I'm not. This is a basic question because,
and I'll give you another example. Let me give you another example. AAA, when it first came out, CMLL had like a 60-year head start on us. 60 years, bro. And the other promotions called El Toreo, they had maybe like a 30-year head start on us. Right. Bro, in 2 years, we were so hot, we caught both of them.
Perfect. That's a fantastic, perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You started AAA out of the blue when it gets a good company that had a 60-year head start,
right.
And in 2 years you were beating them.
Right.
Okay, so we have. Thank you for. I didn't even know. I wasn't even aware of that. But we could. The reason I wanted to bring this discussion up,
and nobody can refute that. That's facts.
Right. Nobody. Okay. Perfect example. Okay. So I quoted this, and this is great. Okay. Could somebody using the quote unquote head start argument explain in context what that actually means? And what specifically is preventing AEW from catching up? What is WWE doing that AEW is not capable of doing? Okay. And I love it how people went into this analogy because this is where they bury themselves in this analogy. I'll give you the first guy because a lot of people tried to argue.
Oh, that was Meltzer that said the audience of rubes, not Cornette, DI.
Right. Meltzer.
I thought you said Cornette.
He's calling like our audience, Cornette's audience, an audience of rubes. Because we're talking about the basics of professional wrestling that have been the narrative for 100 years. Okay, you're in the business to make money and draw fans and draw revenue, right? So, but that's changed according to Dave, just Dave. He's the one that's changing the narrative and like you're moving the goalposts. This, all right? So somebody says, "This is a first response. Here's the best analogy I can give you. Why aren't the CFL or UFL watches as widely as the NFL? Almost exactly the same rules, same format, effectively the same game. Vastly no lower numbers than the NFL. Apply those reasons to WWE competitors, and there's your answer." And I'm like, okay, hold on. I respond to this. CFL, and UFL, the reason they don't perform as well as the NFL is they cannot match the salaries that the NFL pays for talent. If they could pay the best players out there to play in their league, people would gravitate towards watching that league. Like if there was another league and they had Pat Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, they had all the guys, and the NFL was stuck with Tyler Shuck, Kirk Cousins, Shadur Sanders, and everything. What league would you watch? Okay, seriously, that's just common sense, right? So I'm like, so then I point out, dude, that argument does not exist here because AEW is literally outpaying WWE for talent. Right. They are paying more to get the talent that WWE has, right? And we are being told, okay, during all this, like that during this narrative that they had this big hit start, we're being told that AEW has the best roster ever. They have the best show, the best promotion, and the best booker. I'm like, okay, let's take that and like extrapolate it to this argument. Why are they underperforming if they're literally, you're telling me they're the best, but they can't compete because the other company has a 66-year head start? And then I say, well, time out on that argument because it's a 66-year head start. Bro, nobody was talking about this 4 years ago because they were competing with the WWE. It's like now that like from 4 years ago, since your show, the first 2 years you were hot, you were competitive, you guys were actually literally saying, you're going to be Raw. You got close to Raw, okay? And I bring up the point that's like, wait a second, you're talking about this head start, but AEW 6 years ago was drawing more fans than SmackDown does now. All right, so how did the 66-year head start argument in this past 6 years, how does that come into play when literally you were drawing more than the WWE is drawing now during that period of time? Okay, and so I would just say, like, your argument makes no sense. It's a lame argument. The facts are pretty clear. The reason you're underperforming in what do you call it? Attendance and viewership isn't because the WWE has a head start, and that's why they're doing well. It's because your product hasn't been good enough to draw fans. But you think the product's great because you keep voting it's the best promotion, best wrestlers, high. Your match ratings are higher than like the thing. So what gives here? Are you guys like overpraising a product that really doesn't resonate with the large fan base that the WWE is drawing from? Which is the concept that you want to go ahead.
This guy nails it. This hell's no, you're fine. But this guy says the head start argument is weird. The company is only 6 years old, but they've been losing viewers year after year since the start, and that is accurate. They started out close to 1 million. That's so how do we explain that, right? If the product's only improved, why is the viewership down? Is a good question. Now this guy, he has a point here too. ROH fan Slim. Head start means that when you say wrestling, people automatically think WWE, not because the product is better, but because it's been around forever. And I can see that because when you say MMA, you're not going to think Bellator or I can't even think of the other one. What's the other one called that Bellator merged with?
One fighting network.
There's one. What's the other one that Ngannou went?
Well, whatever.
See, but you think UFC. When you say wrestling to someone, they're going to think WWE. That is an advantage of the head start. That is one advantage.
Okay, but Joe.
Yeah.
The first 2 years nullified the advantage, because the first 2 years is when they were doing their best.
Yeah. No, they were.
The past 4 years now, they haven't been doing as well as they were the first 2 years, and for some inexplicable reason, they're blaming that on the WWE's head start. Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going backwards.
If you would have underperformed from the get-go,
right,
you could have blamed the WWE's head start, but you were coming close to performing as well as WWE for the first 2 years.
Right.
Nobody was talking about that back then, right?
Yeah.
Cody, what do you think about this?
No, I just think at the end of the day, for me, this is for me.
Right.
From being a fan, from being in the business, it's just an inferior product,
Right.
And that's why more people don't watch it. They got their niche crowd, the sickos who love it,
and right.
Just like there's punk rock bands that have their niche crowd and they can live off of that, off their, 100,000 fans or whatever. If you get enough niche people to follow you, you could make a living, right? But these guys spend a lot of money. The product has not really gotten better at all, right?
Correct, it's true.
They bring in a lot of big names and they don't know how to use them. And at the end of the day, when you look at both companies, they have an inferior product. And they have the talent behind the scenes to make it better. And they have the blueprint to make it better. And Tony has always said, I'm not going to make the same mistakes Eric has, which he has.
Right.
And the show hasn't gotten better. And this is nothing personal or bitter or nothing like that,
Right.
Right.
And here's another mistake.
But here, Judge, I'm going to say this real quick. Mm-hmm. But this is the reason why it's a problem and it's bothersome. Is because what you just said is completely accurate. Dave would call you a grifter.
Right.
For talking about this.
So let me ask you a question. I just want to make sure.
It's dishonest journalism.
A grifter's a dishonest guy, right?
What now?
A grifter's a dishonest guy, right?
Right.
You're pretending to be negative about something, a movie, a product, a wrestling company, to get clicks and views and downloads. Yeah.
Right. They think we're being dishonest criticism.
Yes.
I think anybody that's listened to a full show, not clips or hearsay from other people that don't like us, no, that's not my style or disco style.
Right. And then plus two, and this is
we don't ambush people. We don't invent clickbait.
Right. And
that's just not our style.
And this is one thing that Ariel brought up in his interview with Russo, which was correct. Okay. Is that even all the old head guys that don't like each other, that don't get along, they all have the same criticisms of AEW because AEW has declining ratings and attendance year over year, and they're pointing out the reasons for it. The AEW fan base and Dave are spinning that's a bad faith argument that we're making. And it's like,
what Gabe says
10,000 seat arenas 4 years ago, and you're working at the ECW arena now. Give me a break. Don't try to spin that and gaslight people that your company that you're producing television that not a lot of people are watching. Period. And you think it's great.
Toxic positivity.
Well, you got to remember, Meltzer's friends with a lot of them.
Right.
He's a hero to a lot of them. They grew up reading him,
Right.
For God's sake, the Young Bucks have a thing called the Meltzer driver.
Well, they changed it to I think they changed it to didn't they change the name of it?
For a while they did, was a Meltzer driver.
Right. Of course it was. Right. They
Right.
played to that audience. They played to him.
Right.
Right?
He's friends with Tony.
Right. Yeah.
So it's clear that he has a bias.
Well, but that's another.
But it's funny because sometimes I hear him bury the company.
No, well, sometimes, but okay, it is. You point out it's clear that he has a bias because of the stuff like that, but he'll deny it. It's like, dude, we're just listening to what you're saying. It's like you come to the defense of this company for basic criticisms, basic constructive criticisms. And you always try to defend the basic constructive criticisms and spin it into we're out of touch. We don't know what we're talking about. And it's like,
right.
And here you are stuck working the ECW arena, and the WWE's we're working in the big places, and that's the eye test and the reality. So it's like whatever.
Well, it's the lines have been drawn, and
right.
He's obviously an AEW fanboy, Mark friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to defend them whether he gets paid or not. He likes that style, know, and he's the OG fanboy, like when you see the young guys that are like all the young guys now, I don't know, like that guy that's your friend, Raji Girl or what,
Raj Giri, he's not friend.
Raj Giri, and all these young guys, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The OG is still Meltzer.
Right.
They all want to be like him. They all want to have his juice. Whenever they have a story on wrestling, they always call Meltzer 90% of the time.
Right.
He is like the paper of record, you know what I'm saying, for wrestling. Yeah.
You know what the funny thing too is another narrative that came up in this is that he's always talking about how he studies. Like he studies a business. He studies this, like, Tony. You see that all the time, right, Joe?
Yeah, but he means he studies trends and numbers and all that. Yeah,
but here's fun. This is kind of like I want to go down this road here real quick. So he always talks about how he studies, all right? And he's studying. Maybe he's studying stuff, but bro, we know a lot of stuff. Like we don't have to study anything. We've been we've been in booking, right? Like we know everything. We've worked in creative with Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantel and like all the smartest guys ever. We've sat in the rooms with them and like gained all this knowledge, right? So he always says, "Why studying?" Then he always brings up like a couple specific people he's talked to. Like Terry Funk told me this, and this guy told me this, and this and all that.
Pillman.
Right. So I want to go back to the tweet that he made one time. Somebody asked him, what would he be doing if he was not doing wrestling journalism? And he said, I would be literally tweeted this, I would be a top NFL reporter. Okay, now think about that. He thinks that he would be a journalist that would get into the genre of the NFL and be one of the top reporters. Okay? Because he's going to study and he would learn and these studies, right? But bro, the guy didn't even know who Pat Mahomes was. So
that's because he's not studying the NFL, D.I. He's studying pro wrestling.
He thought Pat Mahomes' name was Pat Mahonis. Okay? So I'm wondering, it's like, dude, like, you thought you're going to be a top NFL reporter. You don't know who Pat Mahomes is. You're one of the top wrestling reporters. My question is, like, how little of knowledge did you have on this product before you got into it and started studying it?
Yeah,
it's like because I would think.
Well, I think he spends his time
somewhere. Yeah.
I think he spends his time on wrestling and MMA. He doesn't really
spend his time on watching it.
Football, yeah,
watching it. That's my.
He might study it too. We don't know.
But I'm just saying.
But at the end of the day, look. Here's my point. It's very hard to take Dave, and he's a guy, as we all know, he's my friend. I like him, but that doesn't mean I'm a simp for him, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, it's very clear that he has a bias for AEW. In the position he's in, he shouldn't, okay? And he makes it very clear. But it's very weird because at the same time, I've seen him bury AEW. Not as much as Alvarez, but I have seen him bury them, Right. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
Yo, what's up? I just want to thank you guys for watching this clip. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And join our YouTube membership for hours and hours of exclusive, unedited, uncensored content. And being a member will help you get involved in our upcoming live streams. Thank you for your support. Thank you for riding with us. I know you got a lot of other podcast choices, be it wrestling or other ones. And thank you for picking us. Boom.